Alright, what's up guys? Welcome back to another video. As you can see, this is another Advance Wars by Web replay commentary. And I learned a lot from the last one, both in comments, even though there weren't very many, and some talk about in the Advance Wars by Web Discord. So definitely want to say thank y'all for the advice and going over a couple other things as well, and helping to correct me as well, to make sure I'm fully understanding some of the nuances, I guess you could say, of the game. This game is a little bit different than the last one. The last one was a league match, meaning that you got some rankings for it, and you basically were kind of like, if you won, cool, you got some extra stuff, basically, because you went up on the ladder. This was actually just a game between me and one of my best friends. We played it a couple days ago, and we just played it just continual back and forth. It wasn't across a couple days. This was all done at one time. And just to talk about the COs for a bit, we've got Max, who's who I'm playing. I've got 20% firepower on all my direct units, and that does not include infantry. And my indirect units get minus 10% firepower and minus 1 range. So my indirects are pretty gimped. I'm not going to be building those. I've got two pretty good powers, Max Force and Max Blast. Basically, they both increase firepower. If I'm not mistaken, Max Force increases it up to 40%, and Max Blast increases it up to 60%, and they give 1 and 2 movement respectively. However, my powers really aren't going to matter much in this game, because my opponent's playing Sasha. Sasha gets an extra 100 income per property. However, any type of comm towers or labs do not give any extra income at all. And she has 2 powers herself, a Market Crash, which reduces the enemy's CO power based off of the amount of funds that she has, and then War Bonds. War Bonds gives her, but whenever she deals damage to an enemy unit, she gets funds based off of that. The exact numbers I'm not sure about. I haven't actually played Dual Strike myself, so I'm a little unfamiliar with how exactly she works, so I don't know the percentages that you get when you use Market Crash. I'm just not familiar with it. Anyways, basically, this game ends up being about day-to-day abilities and nothing else, because Sasha prevents me from using my power. So, my friend's going first, so as you can see, he goes out for contested properties and builds infantry per normal. I'm going to be doing the same thing, and I do know now that with me going second and having that second infantry, or just an extra infantry in general, that does make my capture phase a lot stronger. And I really feel that in this map in particular. I've got 3 properties where my extra infantry is that I can go towards really easily. So that means that I'm able just to start capping them a little bit earlier and get a little bit of an economy going, which is important to try and do against Sasha, as she gets more money than you. So basically, you want to have a pretty good day-to-day ability that's better than her having 10% funds compared to you. As you can see, turns are going to be very similar, just moving out with capture properties and building infantry. Nothing super special going on. However, this turn you're going to see some interesting play by my opponent. Now, I do want to preface before we continue, both of us were a bit under the influence of a certain type of substance that can potentially impair your ability to do things. So this probably played a bit of a factor in this next move, but I digress. As you can see, he caps properties and passes turn without building infantry, or anything from his base even. I would even say that if he built a recon and a mech, at least building the units is better. But in this case, he built nothing, which puts him quite a bit behind. I've got an extra unit on him already, and because he didn't build units this turn, that puts me at basically 3 extra units overall. So I continue to move out and capture, and I just proceed like normal. He basically does the same thing, except he's just got less infantry overall, which is really going to hinder him in the capture. Excuse me, sorry, I'm a little sick, so I probably sound a little different. Just bear with me while I'm working through this. With his next turn, he builds tank, and then he builds an infantry. The thing is that if he planned to save up money to build a tank this turn, he still could have built 2 infantry last turn and would have been fine. It's a really big play mistake there. However, you could argue what I'm doing now, building that transport copter, could potentially be seen as a mistake, as I have no tanks, and I have no ability to build a tank unless I want to leave a base open, which I absolutely do not want to do. So I built 2 infantry and a transport copter. The idea with this transport copter is I'm going to just load up an infantry here, start dropping them down over here in the mountains to try and get some extra movement and vision, which does come into play a little bit, as we'll see in this game. He continues forward, moving on forest to keep his tank hidden, and continues to cap properties nearby to make sure he's getting the economy going. And because of the money that he has, he can build 2 tanks. So I'm pretty much down to 0 tanks, and he's got 3, which doesn't sound very good for me right now, but it doesn't matter a whole lot, as we'll see. So I do move the infantry down with the transport copter, continue moving down. With the funds that I have, I end up just going with a battle copter and 2 infantry, as you're going to see, because there's not really much else to do. I could go definitely 2 tanks or tank infantry, but I wanted to kind of make use of the airport because Max does have stronger battle copters. I really wanted just to make sure I'm taking advantage of him. I need to make sure I'm taking advantage very well of his day-to-day abilities, just considering the fact that that's what I'm going to be heavily relying on. Now, as you can see over here, he goes for the comm tower cap right away. I really don't know if that's the best play or not. I know that I talked about last time that going for the comm tower super early is really bad, and it's not necessarily super early now. I mean, the Grim player from last time did it very, very early. And I think that it probably would have been better to get the property right here, because this is going to put him behind quite a bit on funds overall. And he ends up actually going from the comm tower up to this property, as you're going to see pretty soon. If he had instead went for this property and then the comm tower, he still would have gotten the 10% firepower probably when it matters the most, and then still be able to get more money. So because he forgoes this property right here, this is really going to hamper him in the long run. But he goes for the cap, and he finishes up a couple other caps. He keeps his tanks in the forest as best as possible to make sure I can't see them and that they're hidden. Granted, it's not like I'm right near his bases or anything, but always wanting to make sure you're at least taking advantage of defensive terrain is good. As you can see, he goes for anti-air and an infantry. And he ends up doing it the same turn I build a battle copter, which is so funny, I think. It's really funny how that ended up lining up. I go for the property over here because I already have a 20% firepower increase on my direct units anyways. It's not as if I'm necessarily needing that firepower right now. Plus, there's not very... well, there's no engagements going on right now. And by the time the first engagements start up, they're not going to really be swayed by a 10% firepower increase that it's going to matter. And by the time I do get the comm tower going on, it's going to be fine. As you can see, I pull my transport copter back, and I place it over here so that way I can move my infantry in here next turn and continue to drop it down. Continue finishing up some caps and moving my infantry down, and pass over the turn with building a tank and an infantry. So again, we move over to his turn. He finishes capping per normal. He gets the comm tower as well, and he initiates a couple other captures. Now, like I mentioned, he loves to keep his tanks in the woods, so what he's going to do is he's going to try and go to the woods. And I think that was a really bold move of him to try and go for this woods over here. I mean, this is my territory, basically. Like, the fact that he tried to go here is very ballsy. I'm very surprised he didn't try and go on the property instead. That's besides the point. He moves his tank 1 up over here. I'm not sure why. I don't know if this is really a good play or not, and I don't remember what his reasoning would have been. Again, besides the point. Moves the anti-air out, keeps it in the forest, make sure it's hidden. He continues to move out with his infantry, and he builds his first battle copter over here on this side, and an artillery, and then he passes turn. And I think this was a huge missed opportunity. He easily could have done infantry, kept 4,000 left over, and because he's not going to have any type of repair costs next turn, for if I do take any engagements, he'll be at 18,300. That's going to mean that he will be able to, 18,900 because of the 600 he has here. That means that he would be able to build battlecopter, artillery, infantry, or even battlecopter, tank infantry as well. So he's just really foregoing just getting presence on the map, which I think is a really bad play. Because I can see his tank, I know engagements are starting, so now I'm going to start capping the comm tower. Because really, you're going to be very few engagements that are going to be taken right now, and like I said, 10% firepower will not matter for the ones that are coming out. I move the tank over here. This is going to keep it on the defensive terrain, so if he ends up seeing it, he's going to have a little bit of trouble dishing it out, but still. Continue to move down and capture, and then I get my swing on the tank with my battlecopter, putting it at where I'm still at full health and he's down to 10. And because I can see his infantry thanks to my battlecopter, I can get a first strike on his infantry and even get another attack on his tank, which brings it down to 3 hit points, which is really good. I end up moving my infantry into the mountain to try and get some vision range, and oh my goodness, this ended up being a really good play. You'll see why very soon. We're going to continue going. I move and load in my infantry into the transport copter, move the transport down to put it into the mountains, and I build my first mech. And I don't build very many mechs this map, but I think mechs are decent because I already have the transport copter out. This is going to let me start moving them down, transporting them around, letting them walk across the mountains, and first striking, hopefully, any anti-airs that come around that threaten my battle copters coming from my airport. Sorry, didn't mean to click on it. I build a battlecopter over here, and because of the funds I have left, I'm able to build a tank after I move my infantry. However, I go for an anti-air. And it's funny how my anti-air build actually ends up being the same turn he builds his battlecopter. The reason I go for this is, of course, I know this is where battlecopters are going to be coming from. I need to have an anti-air ready because even though my tanks have an extra 20%, soon to be 30% firepower, that's still not going to be much on a battlecopter. So here we see a huge misplay in my opinion. So I have my infantry here, I can see this road, which means I see his anti-air move across over this general direction. This lets me know that his anti-air is here or here, somewhere over here. And because I have vision range here, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, I know that he's not anywhere over here as well, meaning that he's most likely in this forest. So this is going to give me such good intel to be able to move my battlecopter next turn. Also, another play that he could have easily done was moving this infantry onto the mountain and moving this tank back either to a city or a forest. Because the anti-air here could have moved 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Shot down my battlecopter and crippled my main offense over here. But he doesn't. He moves in with his tank to get the first strike, and he wipes out my infantry. Pretty good play. Moves the artillery, so that way he's going to be able to start firing on it, hopefully, if I start moving in on his territory. And I have to scout the artillery in order to attack it. Continues moving around and capping, moves out his battlecopter, and he's going to get a first strike on me with his tank. And I think it's honestly a really bad play that he does not end up moving it over here. I know it's further into my territory, but the thing is that he would have been able to see these two units, and I'd have to make sure his tank is dead. Otherwise, there's no point in me moving my anti-air, because then he'll know about it. Because he moved it over here, I get to be very secretive about my anti-air. He moves back a bit more, and then he builds a missile. And I don't know if this was a misclick, if that's what he meant to build. Missiles are definitely not what he needs right now. Yes, I've got 3 air units, but it's not as if an anti-air won't do a good job of shooing everything away. So I really don't know what he went for with the missile. Then he builds an infantry and passes over to me. So I get ready to take my next turn. And I continue to cap on the city. I had an infantry ready to join cap with it if it did get interrupted. So I'm able to bring it up to 10 hit points and continue going. And I kept my comm tower as well. So that way when I take this engagement, it's as best as possible. Putting me at 9-3, which is insane. I'm also able to move my anti-air outside of his tank's vision range, as you can see, which means that he's, if he has a battlecopter, able to just blindly move it in, and they have it shot down by my anti-air. Move down with my infantry, and I move with the mech so I can get this in position along with the transport copter. Excuse me. And then I move my battlecopter in a way to get a first strike on his tank. So that way that is going to be very dead tank. I'm able to actually move down as well and shoot with 2 of my infantry and bring it down to 2 hit points. And this infantry placement is key because now I can move down and kind of reinforce. I'm able to also interrupt his cap a little bit right over here. So that way it's going to take him a long time to get it. I finish capping a couple things on my end and move my battlecopter over towards the middle. I know he has an anti-air here, so there's no real reason for me to continue to move it straight down, because it'll get shot down. I can move it over to the side and kind of attack over in this area, or bring it around over here, make him forced to build multiple anti-airs. That's what you want to do. And then go tank, tank, and pass over my turn. So now he's in a pretty big dilemma. The thing is that if he wants to try and shoot my battlecopter, he can, but he has to get rid of the infantry first, which is a roadblock that he just has to deal with. What does he do? He moves his battlecopter over here, fires on my tank, bringing it down to 2 hit points. And then he goes for the first strike with his other tank, and mine just barely survives, which was insane. I'm so glad that it lived. This is going to let me get more vision on the situation. He starts moving over here as well, and continues to cap more properties. I'm making a bit more than him now, which is good. You want to try and be ahead of Sasha as much as possible. He moves his missile 1 up, and then he does get a really good shot with his artillery to take down the infantry. He continues to move, and he attacks my infantry over here, seeing that I have this one as well. But he's unable to see this thanks to the forest. So now his anti-air is really far away from my battlecopters, meaning that I basically have free range to just do whatever the hell I want until he does something else. Obviously, he has a missile here, and as soon as my battlecopter gets shot down by something that's not directly next to it, I'll know that he has a missile. He continues to move out with his stuff, and moves around, and once he's done that, he activates his power. And this is definitely what you want to do with Sasha. You definitely don't want to do it mid-turn, and you don't want to do it after you build units, because the power that the enemy loses is based off of funds. So obviously you want to take as much advantage of it as possible. So it kind of adds like an extra step you got to do. You do all engagements first, then you can do your power, and then you can build your units. That's pretty much the order that you have to do things in. Then he builds a rocket. I don't know if that was maybe his plan to do from last turn was to build a rocket. I'm not sure. I don't know if that's really what he needs, considering my presence over here is infantry and battlecopters primarily, but he does that and builds an infantry. We go to my day 9, and I finish the cap over here, putting me at 19,000, and I'm able to continue forward. I start the cap over here as well, and I get myself trapped. Now, I really wish I had moved down over here. I could have easily done like this movement, and that would have put me in the forest, meaning you'd have to try and scout me out differently in order to attack me. I move my tank into this forest over here so I can still keep vision on his battlecopter, and I take out the battlecopter with my anti-air, and I'm able to move my other units so that way I'm still able to keep them outside of range of his tank, and I move this battlecopter again more over here to do some work away from the anti-air. I'm able to move the mech in, and I'm able to drop it off as well, putting it in a pretty good position to do almost whatever the hell it wants. I go and I move over here because he already can see it, so I might as well continue to shoot on it. Brings it down to 2 hit points, meaning he still can't cap that property, which is always good. I continue doing some more caps. I get trapped by the tank, so I'm able to move my battlecopter over, fire on it, take it down, move my infantry down as well. And I'm able to move my tank just outside of his vision range, so that way if he keeps his artillery anywhere, or not artillery, if he keeps his anti-air anywhere close to here, I can take it out with the tank. I go for mech, battlecopter, tank, and pass it over. So now we are on day 10. He finishes up some caps over here, and then he fires on my infantry, and he's able to take it out with his other one. Good play. Want to make sure I don't have infantry to try and capture. And then he takes out that infantry down there. He continues to blow up stuff over here too. Excuse me. And then he just starts moving out more with his infantry per normal. I mean, nothing wrong with this at all. He kind of pulls away from my aggression over here because he knows he's going to get destroyed. And because I have this mech in the mountain, I'm able to see quite a bit, and I see that the tank goes in here. Now, I didn't see that it was at 3 hit points. I thought it was a full hit point tank, and that's what influenced my next move that I do on my turn. He moves out aggressively with these units, builds a medium tank for some extra power, and builds a infantry. Thing is that with medium tanks, I don't know if that's really a good play because I have battlecopters. And that means that I'm able to deal a pretty good chunk of damage to the medium tanks. Actually, we can even check the damage calculator. So I'll move this over here. So if Max attacks with a battlecopter on a medium tank, and oh wait, I have to select it. Medium tank, and it is Sasha, who is the CO, and it is at full hit points. And we'll even give it the benefit of the doubt and say that it's in a forest. I'm going to be dealing 2 to 3 hit points to it, which means I'm going to be taking hardly anything back, 1 hit point overall, which is a very good trade for me considering the pricing point. They're basically medium tanks almost double what a battlecopter is worth, and I'm able to continue to do more damage that way as well. So just really good over here. Anyways, I continue going, and then I move this infantry down and I stop capping. I do this solely because I wanted to get a first strike on the tank. Granted, like I said, I thought this was a full hit point tank. So it's only 3 hit points, but I already had committed the move, so I fire on it and kill it. And I'm able to bring down my tank over here, attack his anti-air, and dish out really good damage. I'm able to finish it off with a battlecopter too. And then, as you can see, I can move my infantry in and literally destroy his entire presence here, meaning that he's only got stuff right here, and that's it, which means I can cap his comm tower potentially with other infantry to back it up. I can cap these properties as well that he doesn't have to make sure I'm getting a good ecom advantage, and continue to move mechs down. I start capping this property now, and I end up getting myself trapped, but it's good because I need to take out this tank anyways. I move in, fire with mine, and because I see the infantry, I can move with my anti-air. I'm being pretty aggressive, I admit, but I want it to be. I know that he's got some infantry presence over here, so I move my battlecopter over this way, and that's also what influences this infantry to go up over here, and the tank to go over here, just to try and drive him down. I then build mech, battlecopter, and tank, and finish off by striking on this infantry, doing a fairly okay chunk. We move to his turn 11. He moves in with the medium tank, fires on me with the indirects that he has, and then he takes some engagements with his infantry. He's able to bring it down to 2 hit points, so it's still around. He moves a bit more, pulls back a little bit, moves his infantry here, sees that I'm capping the city, and then he resigns. And I don't know if he necessarily should have resigned right here at this point. I think he still maybe could have tried to turn it around. I mean, a medium tank does take a bit to wear down, and these indirects are going to be doing hella work. I mean, this, come on. The rocket has a range of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Meaning if I go for the comm tower, he's going to be able to try and get it. Oh, come on. Let me just refresh it here. There we go. It doesn't put us quite at the end, but he is going to be able to fire on the comm tower and among other things, with the rocket, and this will also help zone out some of my battlecopters if I try and be aggressive. However, the value difference we have is pretty big. I have quite a big lead over him, just in general, so I definitely understand him conceding at this point. I think probably the biggest downfall was not properly building enough infantry at the beginning of the match, and building some really choice units towards the middle with the indirects that he chose, as well as for going once or twice building units. Definitely let me know if I missed anything that I should have touched on, and also please let me know if there's anything else that I can improve on this. My goal is to try and get as best as possible, so definitely any criticism about my play is good and plays for my friend as well. I do want to say thank y'all for watching if you made it this far, and I hope that y'all have a fantastic day. Y'all please take care.